guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kenza James. So guys, it's been a while that I put up my face, right? So today I'm bringing up my face on the channel because I have good news, guys. So I'm in celebration mode today. I just thought about it. I'm supposed to be sipping wine or something, but guys, anyways, I mean, if you check my channel very well, we just hit 1,000 subscribers. At the moment is a little bit higher than 1k, right? So guys, I just came here with celebration mode today, and I want to thank everybody that subscribed to my channel. Guys, you guys are the real farm bam, right? Guys, I was so excited when I woke up that morning and I saw 1k sub. So this video today is just, I mean, if you see me behaving square, that is, it's just joy, right? I'm so happy, guys. So thank you very much for everyone that has subscribed to my channel, who has dropped a comment or two, who has liked my videos. Guys, I am so grateful for all your support and all your love, right? So that's the major thing actually today. So I just use this opportunity to say, let me just teach you guys a few things today as well, right? So when I started doing YouTube videos, right, I noticed there was this video I dropped my phone number, and also I noticed a couple of people were calling me. A few people called me actually. Some were sending messages on WhatsApp, so they were asking me so many questions like what is circumference, what is this, you use these words and we don't understand and all that. So today I'm going to be addressing some of those words that I use in my videos that I feel maybe you might not understand, maybe because you've not been in the sewing world for a while, right? And before I continue, guys, I made this dress on my previous channel, so I'm going on my previous tutorial, so I'm going to be linking the tutorial for the dress up here. I don't know if it's here or here, but it's going to be up, and it's also going to be in the description box, right? So you can also, if you like the dress, do ensure to go there and watch the tutorial, right? So back to what we're talking about. So I've been getting messages and calls about these words that I use. Sorry, I wrote the words down in a book here, so I'm going to be reading from that book. That's why you would see me putting my head down and coming up and all that, right? So I just want to address those words so that we get clear, and in your further experience with my channel, you would understand what I mean. So these questions are actually coming from people who are not too familiar with the fashion world like that. Maybe you just have a sewing machine at home and you're trying your hands on sewing, or you're just learning, but though you're not a professional, or maybe you're a professional and you call these words separate from what I call them. I'm just going to be addressing, so I might be addressing about 20 of those words, right? Or if I remember any one other than the ones I've written, I'll also be explaining what those words mean as well, right? So before we continue, if you're not yet subscribed and you just came across this video, guys, join the family and hit the subscribe button, guys. Also turn on the notification so that you don't miss out on any of my videos, right? And then like my videos. If you come across it, it will help me with the YouTube algorithm, right? And also share my videos with your friends, guys. Why not? If you're receiving all this package, all this good news here and there on my channel, why not share these videos with your friends? It will help them as well, right? So the first word that I have on my list is selvage, right? So when I say selvage end of a fabric, right, so let's assume you have a fabric that it's like this. So the fabric came like this side, right, this end and the lower end here will be the selvage of your fabric, right? So that's what selvage means. And then we have words like that. Guys, that is a very broad topic, right? But there are those stitches or seams you see on your dresses, right, which are meant to take in some of the excesses on your fabric, or to give good fit and bring out your curves or accentuate your curves on your body. So sometimes you see seams from the bust running through like to the waist area, right? Or you see from the armhole coming towards the bust, or from the shoulder to the bust. you shall will be seeing seams running on some of your garments. So those are darts, right? And there are so many types of it. In another video I'm going to be addressing darts specifically, because I feel it's a very broad topic and I have a lot of people asking me questions about it. So guys, that is it about that, right? I'm going to be doing a full video about that, which I will explain. And if you do want to see that video, comment below, so I would be encouraged to do the video, and I also know that you would want to see the video as well, right? So the next word is cross grain or grain line, right? No, it's grain line first, then we'll talk about cross grain. So for grain lines is when most times when you draft patterns, or when you have a lot of panels that you're working with on your pattern paper, right, or your fabric and all that, sometimes when you come to join those patterns together, you don't know which side is which, or which side is the upper side, or whatever, right? So your green line is that line that you make a mark or an arrow on the patterns or on the pieces to help you sort of know the direction where your patterns are facing and which side is which side, right? So that's what the grain line is. And then for the cross grain is this. For instance, on your fabric, right? Okay, before I come to cross grain, let me talk about bias, right? So when you hear the word bias, people are used to like bias as in that stuff we buy in the market. Yes, that's a bias, but the reason why that fabric is called a bias is because of the way they cut out those strips, right? So let me use this handkerchief again. So let's assume we have our fabric here and we want to cut out a strip of fabric, right? What we do is you cut it out like this regularly, right? Let's say you want to cut out rectangles to use to pipe maybe necklines or sleeves, or make designs on your dresses. Now when you cut out strips of fabric like so, that's the regular cutting out, or this way, any rectangle you're cutting out, and if you want to use those strips to pipe the neck of a garment or something like that, it's not going to relax or sit on it with ease. You won't like it, guys. So we cut those type of things on bias. Now it's not only strips of fabric we cut on bias, you can as well cut certain styles on bias, or certain fabric. So for instance, let's say you're cutting a slip dress now, or you're working with silk fabric and or something you want to drape, like the fabric to drape, you cut your patterns on bias. So what cutting on bias simply means is, I have a piece of fabric like this, so when I lay my fabric, I do not want to just layer my patterns straight on them like this. So I'll sort of my patterns will not be laid straight, they will be slanted. Do you understand? So like you have patterns like, instead of standing straight, they'll be slanted, right? So you're not cutting on your selvage ends, right? So you're cutting them on bias. So assuming I have this fabric now and I want to cut a bias to prep the neck of a dress or maybe the sleeve, because that place is rounded and I want my bias to be, I want whatever fabric I'm using to turn that side to relax properly. Instead of cutting it straight, like horizontally or vertically, what I do is I can just fold like this. You can see, right? So across this line, that's from here to here, is what I'm going to be cutting on. So it will help the fabric to drape, and most times fabric on bias has a little bit of stretch. So on a very good day, you can see this fabric is not stretchy, right? You can see it's not stretchy, but when we talk about the bias side of it, it has a little bit of stretch. I don't know if you can see this. So that's cutting on bias, right? So the next thing we are going to be talking about are notches, right? So when we say notches, is what it means is, assuming I cut out a skirt or something and I want to put a mark at a point, even on pattern or anything, I can just sort of cut a little bit out of that point so that I will know the point where I want to be working with. So assuming I want to add a zip allowance to this thing, and then I just put a little bit of mark here, either with my scissors, or I just fold it and cut out a little triangle on that side, just for me to know or remember that I have something around that side is a notch. Then the second thing I use notches for is, assuming I sew a neckline and a facing, for instance, and then I would need to notch. If I sew maybe a facing on the neckline of this dress now, I will need to notch some point with my scissors, so that by the time I turn the facing, it eases some of those stress on the seam line, so it allows for it to sit properly. So those are notches, right? So the next thing we're working with is facings. I just used facing before when I was talking about notches. Facing is just, they are just a piece of fabric you cut out, just like you're repeating a pattern, but you're not cutting the entire thing, you're just cutting a smaller part of it to help, maybe because you do not want to use lining, or you want to use them for designs. Now look at this dress that I'm wearing, right? This is the main fabric, this side of the fabric is the main fabric of this dress. So I cut out this other fabric that you can see as a design there as a facing, right? So I just used it to turn over the raw edge on my neckline. I also did the same thing on the sleeve side, you can see it here. So this is facing. You can use facing on any side of your dress, be it pockets, sleeves, necklines, but they are mostly around necklines, armholes. So they are actually fabrics that you cut. If I'm cutting a facing on the neckline, I'm going to cut the exact same thing I have on my neckline, then I'll cut the facing to be shorter than what the dress is actually. So they are just a piece of fabric we use to turn over our raw edges. So it can be anywhere on your dress, be it on your neckline, on your sleeve, on the pocket, on the hem of the garment. You can have facings basically anywhere that you want it to be, right? So the idea is just to get what it really means, and then you get to use it properly, right? So we have interfacings and interlinings. Guys, this one was one thing that I got a lot of questions about. So interfacings are fabrics that are placed in between two other fabrics. Mostly one is the main fabric and one is the lining piece, but interfacing comes in between these two fabrics. So they are in between the main fabric and the lining piece, right? Now interfacings are supposed to give your garment structure and quality, right? Structure in the sense that I may be using a fabric, and for the reason I'm using that fabric is kind of light for that purpose, right? I'll have to interface it so that I get a different structure from the regular structure. There are so many varieties. There is a very wide variety of interfacings, right? I'm going to be explaining a lot about interfacing, and I feel like I should do a video on interfacing, but I don't know about that. If you want to see it, also comment below, right? So interfacings, you can have interfacings that are like paper texture, right? So those are like, they call them paper stays, some people call it tissue stays, and then they go from really soft textures to really hard textures, right? So you can have interfacing for, I don't know if you've opened a bag before. There are these piece of fabrics you can see in there. They are really hard piece, and some of them come like very stiff paper or cartons like that, and some of them are fabric, like they have like fiber texture, but they are sort of thick. So there are some they call wordings, there are some they call hair stay, paper stay, tissue stay, and a lot of things like that, right? So I should do a video on interfacings, right? So I'm going to do a video on it. And then there are these other types of interfacing that I would love for you to know. Assuming you're working with lace now, right? You can work with lace fabric, and then you interface them with other fabrics such as satin, raw silk, organza, or anything you want in between the lace so that it doesn't get too transparent. That's an interfacing. before you add your lining. So those are interfacings, right? So many fabrics can also serve as interfacing. Even your main fabric can serve as interfacing if you just want to double it, right? So interfacing is just the fabric in between the main fabric and the lining fabric. But I'm going to do a video and I'll show you different types of interfacings and in what type of garments you should be using them, right? So if you want to see that video, let me know in the comment section, and then I'll bring the video for you soonest, right? So we have fusing. Fusings are just the same thing as, they are similar to interfacings. I don't want to really say they are the same thing, but I use the word fusing like I'm just going, you hear me most times say I'm going ahead to fuse this part of my fabric, which means I'm going to add some form of interfacing to give that part of my fabric texture. So the act of adding that, the process of adding that fabric is what I usually refer to as fusing, right? So you hear me say things like ease, right? Maybe ease allowance or to create ease. Ease simply means to just loosen up. For instance, let's say my bust measurement is 40 and I'm sewing a garment and I do not want that dress to be tight. You hear me say things like ease allowance. So ease allowance is basically just adding more allowance to my dress so that it doesn't hug me. That's ease number one. The second time you see me use ease is maybe I'm making a notch somewhere and then I say it's to ease that point. So most times when you sew around round shapes, what they do is they don't balance out when you turn them over until you cut through your seam, and then the seams sort of give like a little bit of opening that allows that fabric to lay flat on that side. So that's what I call ease, right? So the next one is circumference. When I say circumference, it simply means the measurement around a circle. So when I say circle, it must not be a rounded circle. It could be your own measurements, right? So circumference is just, for instance, I want to measure my bust. The act of me putting a tape round my body is me taking my body circumference. Do you understand? So it does likewise the waist, likewise the hip, likewise the sleeve. Any round side you want to take the measurement round on anywhere on your body is the circumference of that side. So you can hear me say ankle circumference, lap circumference, hip circumference, thigh, any circumference at all. That's what I mean, right? So I've talked about bias. Now I'm going to talk about gathers. You can hear me sometimes in some tutorials I say I'm going to make gathers. What this simply means is I have a wide fabric or long fabric, a piece of fabric or a rounded piece of fabric that I want to make a seam across the selvage end of the fabric, and then I use one rope from that thread that I used to make that seam to sort of draw the fabric, to put the fabric together. That's to create more volume on the fabric. That's what I mean by making gathers. So let's assume my waist circumference is let's say 20 inches for instance, and then I cut out a piece of fabric that measures maybe 40 or more, and I want to put that fabric on that circumference of 20. I have to make gathers. So I'll have to like put them together, just like the word sounds, gather them together to make gathers, right? Then I have pleats next on my line. I have pleats. Pleat simply means it's giving me a similar effect to gathers, but on this side I don't want them all gathered like lumped up together, but I want them to have a pattern or a rhythm. So you fold the fabric maybe by an inch or two. You just make like, you know what pleats are now, like fold my fabric like so, and then continually fold them directionally. So those are what pleat means, right? So another word is grading. So when you hear the word grading on any of my fabric or my tutorial, grading simply means, assuming I have a pattern on size 8 and I want to make a dress, that specific dress for a size 9 person, I have to grade the pattern. That's like uplift the pattern. So I'm adjusting the pattern so that it fits size 9 person. So that is what grading means, right? So I think basically this is it about all the terms. I cannot say all. If you have any other term that I've not included here and you hear me say them all the time and you really want to know what it means, you can go ahead and comment in the comment section. I would be there to answer you. I mean, guys, I always reply my comments, so I would reply you most definitely in the comment section, guys. So once again, I want to thank you all for subscribing to my channel, guys. I am super grateful, right? And then I can't wait till we hit 10k sub on this family, guys. So thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you're here till the end, guys, I love you. See you in my next tutorial. But then shout out to my husband who is always here filming me. So most of the time he's the one that is behind the camera, guys. Babe, I love you. Thank you. Right? So see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.